I got a review for you here on the channel today. We're going to be taking a look at the Hoyt Xceed 2 riser and Metrix limbs. I'm going to unbox them, show you them up close, let you know what I think about the actual fit and finish of the riser and limbs. I'm going to go outside and tune them and shoot them and let you know what I think of the new lineup from Hoyt. So like I said there in the intro, I've got the new Hoyt Xceed 2 riser. I've got the Metrix limbs that fit this in Grand Prix, and I have a set of Formula limbs because I also have the Formula riser on order. It's on back order, hasn't arrived yet. But one of these sets of limbs is foam and one of them is laminate. So I'll unbox them both. Actually, these showed up opened from Lancaster, unfortunately, but that's okay. I didn't look at them yet, so full disclosure there. So I'll be taking a look at them first time on camera with you. And I just want to let you know that I did purchase these thanks to you guys out there who watch this channel, help support the channel through the various different ways, through the links down in the description below. So if you are interested in grabbing any of the products that I'm going to be using on today's video, click those links down in the description below before you shop there each and every time. Genuinely, that helps this channel out and allows me to do this because ultimately I'm not sponsored proudly, specifically so I can give you unbiased feedback that is not filtered coming through a pro shooter's mouth. I get to give you my true unbiased opinion on this stuff. So with all that being said, first I'm going to start with the riser and then we'll check out the limbs. So in the hardware pack, we've got the new clicker plate. That's not a plate, it's a round piece, a keychain, a couple of the they're not Vertitune plates anymore. That's not what they're calling them. I forget, but I need to check out what the actual verbiage they're using. Set that aside. Got a nice riser sleeve. And I got Mr. Perfect Orange. I got the green in the Formula both, so that'll be showing up here soon. This is the first Hoyt that shows up in a clear bag. And yeah, so this is an interesting looking orange. I wouldn't say it looks like it did on the computer. This is much more of like a red orange than it is a yellow orange. My computer, to me, showed this thing being much brighter like this. Maybe it'll be nice and bright out in the sun. It's definitely a little more on the red side. So first, looking at the finish looks quite good. It looks like it flowed out really well in some areas. There's a little bit of orange peel here or there, and there's some dirt nibs, and I'll show you all the flaws. Some things here or there, but overall, you know, the riser looks pretty good. The balance naturally, it's a little top pocket heavy. This is the 25-inch Xceed 2. I'm going to shoot it as a recurve here today. The grip looks like it has changed slightly this year. The actual shape of the shelf on the riser has changed as well. Yeah, so definitely quite a few things have changed on the riser from previous years. But as far as the finish, you know, you can see the orange peel on it. I don't know how easy it is to shoot Cerakote. Never done it myself personally. Here's a dirt nib. Then I'll show you. Let me see where. Right there. That's what's called a dirt nib. It looks like a little piece of hair or dust or something got in there. And then some of the edges here are very, very sharp and mildly unfinished looking right through there. But, you know, I'm being critical because this is a high price point item. And then I can see where they plugged a threaded hole for what looks like the internal weight system. On the inside they plugged the hole, but on the back side, inside there, you'll see, you know, like where the spray got stuck on probably a silicone plug that was put in on the inside. And then, you know, you can see the remnants of it sticking through there. Not a big deal. The grip has changed. Like I said, the shelf has changed. If you look at the shape, it's much more, you know, just straight and cut off. It's not like the original GMX had a very blocky, solid shelf. And I actually cut my shelf in the back to give me some hand clearance because my hand comes up over the shelf. And that shape they actually use on all of the other Hoyts up until this riser now. So this is different where it's shaved in a little bit, but it's blocky again. And the actual grip itself has changed where there's like a relief cut here. So the finger, as it comes up and over the shelf, it's far more comfortable. So I would say this grip is an improvement over the other stock Hoyt grips. The only thing it's really lacking now is that filler piece here where, you know, when you put your hand in there properly, there's always a hole in that spot there. And so it feels good overall. So that's a definite improvement. And this is what I'm talking about as a dirt nib. That's actually like a hair in it. Right there. So overall, all the holes looked like they were plugged and masked off really well. It's interesting to see that they drilled and tapped the sight holes all the way through the riser. Normally they only go halfway through, so they feel a little more, feels a little more polished when it's not all the way through. Probably much cheaper to manufacture this way. It's just a change from years previous. I really like the little medallion decal looking things. It's very premium looking as far as the feel of it. It's like soft touch. It looks really, really nice. In the pocket, got your tensioning adjustment system up in the top with that brass bit in there to reduce a little bit of vibration and noise. Got 360 damper in place as well, with the ability to put weights in the riser to change the balance of it. I'm going to finish bolting up some of the accessories on the bow before we move on to the limbs. So new for this year is the monoblock Vertitune system. So it is still Vertitune, it's just called the monoblock Vertitune. I only have one plate, so yeah, that's kind of disappointing. So you have the monoblock Vertitune Plate system, which is supposed to stiffen up the center part of the riser in what I've heard as the Z-axis. Which I'm assuming is going to be this direction. X and Y and Z maybe. I don't know what they're using as a reference of the Z reference as far as it being stiffer in the Z axis. At least that's what I've heard. But looking at it, you know, you've got the Vertitune plate system where normally it comes with 3 different plates that you can adjust. This one is keyed, so you can only go in one place like this, right? Because then it fits inside the hole. But if you wanted to adjust it on, like, say, the Win and Wins or something, you can actually take some of these plates and flip them upside down, but you can't because then it won't fit in the hole. And my riser only came with one Vertitune plate. So you can adjust it if they had different plates. So I don't know if they're looking to upsell these and you buy them at a different time, but you have one option that bolts in place, which is a bit funny for me because, you know, I would expect it to come with the risers based on it did in the past, right? And it's a bit tight, which is good. I'd rather it be tight than not. Yeah, it's just clearancing a little bit of the Cerakote. I wish there was multiples of these that came with the bow, because every other bow Hoyt has made within recent years has come with multiple Vertitune plates. So it seems very odd that I'm married to one, even though it is adjustable. Yeah, so that is kind of sucky if you ask me. I wish there was multiple options, because personally, I really like running the high plate in all of my setups. I find that the bow is a little bit more forgiving and shoots a little better that way. So let me grab my Xceed that I've got off camera. I got the high Vertitune plate on it right now, and I want to see what kind of difference in geometry we're looking at here. Okay, so the shelves, the grips, everything else lines up. So the plate that comes stock on it is probably what looks to be the medium height plate on standard Hoyts at the moment, or the other Hoyts last year's models, several-year-old models, whatever. So this plate is the medium plate. So it's not the low one. I personally, like I said, I wish I could put the high plate on, and it's very disappointing to see that, as I've already said, previous years came with the plates, and now that it's not, it just feels a little off to me. So maybe there's a mistake there. I'm not sure. I'll reach out to Lancaster and see if that's the case for all these bows or not, or if they're planning on selling them as an upgrade in the future. They're not available at the catalog right now, so I'm not sure. I don't really have anything to say about that at the moment. So I haven't opened these up. I've had them for a little while, a couple days. So in the box is another manual and another keychain, and then limb sleeves. And I really like the new Hoyt limb sleeves. They're not new, but I've enjoyed that both limbs go into one sleeve. These are the foam limbs. Okay, so GPF Metrix. So Grand Prix foam GPF Metrix, right? So I got 42 longs, made in the USA. And they have some of the other stuff that you've seen on some of the other previous recent limbs. You'll see the Delrin dots here that are machine Delrin that go inside and are glued into the actual limbs themselves. And then it's got this new white paint on the top, which I'm glad to see. I think white is great because it's reflecting heat naturally. They have a smell to them. They haven't fully cured yet, I don't think. It's smells like resin to me, actually, which is odd. I've never had that happen before. I don't know. Very, very, very torsionally stable, like extremely torsionally stable. So it'll be interesting to get new measurements with all the new limbs that have come out on my rig up here to measure torsional stability or rigidity and get an actual measurement of these limbs. I will do that in the future and update my database and host it somewhere so everybody can actually see it. But the overall limb itself feels pretty good. It's very torsionally stable. It feels quite chunky through most of the limb itself. We'll find out once I put biter blocks on it. There's some minor issues here or there, but I'll show you them. I do like how, the white edges on the back side of the limbs are quite crisp where they've masked off the white to show you the actual carbon fiber layup on the belly of the limb. Show you these up close so you can get a good look at them. So I'm seeing similar flaws here or there, just like I was in the riser itself with, some, not so much in the way of orange peel. They all look pretty good there. There's some scuffs here or there that it's interesting to see. But overall, they look pretty decent, I think. Here's the back side of the limb. Start with the tips. Tips look different, at least on from recent memory, they look different. I haven't really shot the Axias. I shot them a little bit and did a review, but then I got rid of them. I haven't been using them or had them in my hand for a long period of time, so I'm not sure if they're very, very different, but the carbon looks nice. You get a nice effect there from them. Overall they look good. What's interesting about it is on both sides of the limbs, I can see like streaks throughout the length of the limb this way on both sides. And it's like there's scratches underneath the limb, and I keep wiping it with my shirt to see if I can get it to clear up. But I can see striations, like scratch marks almost. And I don't know if that's from sanding, and I don't know if you're able to see it from the camera, but I can just see like streak marks. Masking of the butt of the limb was sufficient. And then one other thing that I'm not super thrilled to see, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, but is it a large inconsistency in the way that these Delrin inserts inside the limb are done. The machining on them is not consistent. You'll see like a cut off. So you'll see a part off on that side and nothing on that side. So it's like I can feel that. On this side, there is nothing. So it's just, you know, if you have adjustments to twist the limbs, yes, you can take out any of this inconsistency, but it just seems to me like it's a little odd that you'd have the surface not be a little smoother than that. And these little Delrin pieces are not installed all the way either. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show it to you, but I'll do my best. I don't think I'll be able to show you, but I can actually demonstrate it with this piece of paper probably. So see how this side, it won't go in, but this side, you'll see that I can get paper between the dot and the limb. Yeah. So you'll see there's that. This is an issue that I was having with the other limbs as well. The other, what do you call them? The Axias, where they started putting these things in. They weren't installed in all the way, as you can see there. Same thing on this limb. Same side on both sides. This side, the left side, when looking at it this perspective, is not pressed in all the way, whereas the right side is pressed in all the way. And what's odd is on both limbs, this side here too, there's like you can definitively see a layer kind of sticking out of the butt. Whereas, you know, these two, no issue, these two that sticks out. So just little inconsistencies here or there. I'm being very picky, very, very picky, because these are very expensive limbs. And for the price point, you'd really want them to be as ultra premium as humanly possible. And I want to take a look at the laminate ones, just to get an idea if it's similar. These are for formula, so I'm not going to be shooting them today. I will absolutely do a foam versus laminate comparison, just to see. These have their own sets of issues, and, you know, I'm happy to see. Oh, cool. So at the tip, you can actually see the wood layering. You can see it through the side, whereas on these, you can see the layering, they're just black. So the only way you're going to tell by looking at people on the shooting line if they have foam limbs or the laminate limbs is to look at the limb tips. And if you can see brown on the side of the black limb tip, it's the wood limb. If you can't and they're black, then it's the syntactic foam limb. I'm not seeing the same Delrin insert thing issue there. I somewhat am and somewhat not because of a different issue. I'm seeing it, the clear coat is, and you know, so the butt of the limb is smooth. There's no difference there. The Delrin inserts look even left to right. However, it has its own set of flaws in that there are clear coat drips. Right here, there's going to be a drip that heads, because they probably paint them this way, drips this way. See that, where it ends? And then this is a completely irrelevant side of the limb, so it doesn't really matter, but you'll see a buildup here and there and there. This side of the limb is hypercritical where it sits against the actual limb rocker, and so it's naturally thicker on one side. And then also you'll be able to see from the side of profile, there's a bulge also down here as well. So they've got, it's not sharp because they've got a clear coat buildup in that area there. And that clear coat buildup is preventing the Delrin dot from sitting down inside of it, down inside the limb all the way. These still have like the horizontal stripes through them. And, you know, some small masking things here or there. That's doing these graphics the way they're doing them makes it very difficult to get perfect. Like this is a hard limb to get painted beautifully because they've got to mask off this whole back area and the line is right on an edge. And so they've done a good job at masking off the edge right at that 90-degree cutoff. But, you know, there's issues like they mask off the limb tips as they're spraying the white. And when that happens, if your masking tape isn't sealed really well, you'll get a lot of under spray, but overspray kind of, that comes through the tape because the tape's covering like so, you know, it's covering the limb tip. And if that edge isn't put down really firmly, you'll get stuff on this side. You'll see some ghosting white compared to over here, none, because some of the white pigment got underneath the actual tape as they're spraying it. And so that happened on both of the formula limbs in wood, but did not happen on the foam limbs. Both of those tips look good. You know, the longer I look at these, the more little drips and stuff like that I'm seeing coming out of the limb groove, coming out of the side of the limb here. There's just a decent amount of over application of clear coat, which has happened in the past. So with the formula limbs set aside, I want to take the limbs and see how the fitment is on the actual tiller bolt to limb interface. And this is the bottom going in the bottom pocket, and unfortunately in both the top and bottom they fall right out. I'm going to check the top, and the top first, a little bit stiffer, still falls right out, and the bottom. So I'm going to measure really quick the inside diameter of the limb and the outside diameter of the tiller bolt and see where the discrepancy is. If you're interested in learning more about this riser to limb interface and why it's, in my opinion, the most critical connection point of the actual bow, this specifically, where the groove of the limb is on the outside diameter of the tiller bolt, I will have a link down in the description below and a card at the top up there to a video I made specifically for this purpose, so don't take 20 minutes to explain it to you in this video. This is the top, which was the slightly tighter one, is 377 thousandths of an inch. 377-ish at its narrowest. The bottom limb, which was a little looser, at least the way it felt, yeah, 378 thousandths of an inch. So both of these limbs are definitely a little bit oversized. Should be around that 375 range. Yeah, and this limb bolt in the top is 371 thousandths of an inch. And on the bottom, same thing, 371.5 thousandths of an inch. So if you round up 372, these limbs are 377 and 378. So we've got a 5 thousandths of an inch discrepancy. According to what I was told by Hoyt years ago, Hoyt tiller bolts are supposed to be 373 to 375 inches, 0.373 to 0.375. These are 371.5. So it's showing me that they're undersized according to their own specs. And it's just, for a very premium, expensive setup, it's sad to see that happening. Luckily, I have the fix for that. And I would put the Kaminski tiller bolts that we do machine and have made specifically for this reason. We've got stuff in 375 and 380 thousandths of an inch. And these brand new limbs are already in that range to where I would need to throw the 380s in, the oversized tiller bolts, to tighten up these limbs in the interface of the riser. Now, they do this, generally speaking, I believe, so you can get them in and out very easily. And for the price point, what you're paying, I wish it was much tighter. So with all that info and discovering that the limbs and the riser don't quite work together, I have a question genuinely that I'm looking for feedback on. So in cases and scenarios like this, and I want you to comment below, would you rather me continue to shoot this bow with the stock tiller bolt setup and give you the feedback of how it feels and the lines and sets up and stuff like that with the stock setup, or would you rather me upgrade them to the precision tiller bolts and have proper fitment and then give you feedback how the bow feels that way? In previous videos, I've done testing on proper fitment and things like that, and proper fitment does make a difference in the way the bow feels. It has less vibration, but also, as you've seen, if you watch that explanation video, the actual alignment of the bow is far more consistent and it sets up and tunes much easier that way because of that. And so I'm just curious, would you rather me run the stock setup or would you rather me upgrade the tiller bolts? I'd be very curious to know. I'm torn between that, and that's why I'm asking you for feedback. Please comment down in the comment section below and let me know what would you like to see. So now that we've got the unboxing out of the way, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the preliminary setup on the bow itself. I'm going to get the limbs aligned, get my center shot set, get all of my accessories bolted on the bow, and go through my preliminary checks. If I find anything else that's interesting to note, I'll make sure I call it out and show you it. We're going to head outside. I'm going to shoot this bow at 30 meters and get it tuned up, and then we'll step back to 70 and shoot a few ends at 70 meters, and I'll let you know what I think of the Xceed 2 riser with these Metrix foam limbs. A couple things I noticed. One of those, my brace height was shockingly way higher, almost 10 inches. So I don't know what it is exactly. So from tiller bolt to tiller bolt on this Xceed 2, 19 and 7/8 inches. And on the Xceed 1, same 19 and 7/8. So it must be the new limbs are longer. The limb tips must be further out. And that changes the way the limbs draw a little bit. So that was something that I noticed. Gonna need a different string. So for optimization to be perfect, the right length, I would need to build a new string. Luckily, I have a longer string on hand, and that's how I got my brace height set here. I also noticed that the sight window is much chunkier than this Xceed and the other Hoyts. Because this Xceed, I had my center shot set with my X10s just fine, and I tried using that plunger in this bow, and my center shot was really, really far to the inside. So I think they made either the sight window chunkier, fatter, or the actual flat surface where the sight bar mounts and the plunger sits against, it's further away from the center line of the bow. I can get some detailed measurements on that later. Let's head outside and get some arrows out of this thing, get it tuned up, and I'll let you know how it actually feels. All right, so we're out here at 30 meters, and I've got a camera downrange so you'll be able to see the impact points the entire time. And I'm gonna start with trying to get this bow tuned up. I don't know if I'm gonna need 410s or 450s, so I'll probably just start with 410s just to be safe. I still have the stock grip on it here at the moment, so I can get a few shots to see how it feels, because it is a different grip before I put on a custom grip that I like to shoot. It hit super far left. I think that's because, like I said, the sight window, how far the sight window is off from the center line of the bow has changed a lot. I saw that with setting up my center shot, but man, that arrow sure kicked hard to the right. I mean, hard to the left. Definitely feels quite top heavy or roll heavy. Bow really wants to roll forward. Jumps pretty good, I think. Based on the flight of this, I'm going to swap to the 450s because these are just kicking sideways out of the bow, and it feels like it's a very light draw weight. I have the limb bolts all the way out as far as they'll go, 6 turns, and then I balance my tiller by moving, I believe, the bottom one in just a touch. So yeah, I mean, I think the bow jumps fairly well. There's a lot of low frequency vibration. After I get this thing tuned up a little bit, we'll talk more about the vibration. Yeah, I'm gonna swap the grip after this end. Here's a bare shaft. So it looks stiff and knocking point high. As far as the feel through the clicker, these things, they feel more Korean styled as far as the way the thing draws. It's very smooth, but as I come to full draw, there's a considerable amount of stacking, for lack of better terms, through the clicker. It's very stiff through the clicker, which a lot of people like. A lot of people like that stability when they're going to pull through the clicker, but the bow is very, very stable as I'm trying to pull through the clicker. So I'm gonna go down and get them and check where that bear shaft went up close and start making some adjustments and see if I can get this thing tuned up a little bit. I'm sure the vibration characteristics will change a lot. As of right now, it feels like a Hoyt. You know, feels like it jumps a little bit more than the regular, than the first Xceed. So this one jumps a little bit harder and it wants to roll forward a little bit more. But I have a lot of that, a lot of flop going on post shot, which it's not bad. It's just kind of standard for Hoyts. But I think some brace height play and getting the thing tuned in is going to help that a lot. So we'll go down and get them. And I'm also going to bump the draw weight up about a turn and a half, I believe. All right, there's a turn and a half, top and bottom. And I'm going to swap out the grip because I really, I don't like the feel of the grip. I mean, it's fine. It's better than the other one, but I can feel there's, you know, where I showed you that extra cut that they took out right here, I can feel there's like a lump right here on the grip. And as I go to draw back, my hand slides up this soft touch stuff. And then all I feel is that pressure right there where there's that little bump on the actual grip. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Should be able to, but like right there, there's this hump. And that thing is just, that's where I'm feeling all the pressure basically in the grip. And because there's not that filler spot up top, the hand is just gonna stop sliding upwards. There, that's better. So what I swapped on here is the I Am recurve grip from Arcor, and basically this thing is a grip that I designed, and if you're interested in checking these out, I do have links down in the description below. And Arcor makes grips that fits basically every kind of riser out there, and I've got multiple designs from them, and if you use code Kaminski at checkout, you'll get 10% off any of their grips that they have, not just the ones that I've worked on. This is also a little bit lower grip angle, so I should feel a little bit more stable at full draw as well. Yeah, vibration feels better already. Get a group down there and then I'll shoot a bear shaft. Very quiet. This is definitely one of the quietest Hoyts I've shot. Despite it feeling like a Hoyt, it doesn't sound like a Hoyt. It still has the same sound profile, it's just overall much quieter. So I'm very, very shocked at how quiet this bow is. Alright, now the bear shaft. Alright, I can't see from here. It looked like it went in the group, but still slightly maybe knock high. So I'm going to go down and get them, but now the bow feels much better. There's less large amplitude vibration. It's not as tight as some of the other bows that I have shot recently as far as like the post-shot reaction of it damping and stopping that humming going on, but it's not bad. Like I said, it's actually quite quiet. The bow does jump really well, but I need to shoot it more to see if it jumps consistently and it jumps as I'm pressing it or pushing it in that direction or the direction that I want it to go. But overall, it definitely feels like it jumps out of the hand quite well, but it really feels top pocket heavy and wants to rotate forward quickly. So those of you that like that dynamic roll forward, you're really gonna like this riser, I think, without having any top weight. And I didn't change my stabilizer. It still holds steady. It just wants to roll forward for some reason. So whatever that's worth, that's what I'm feeling so far. The bear shaft was in the group, just angled a little bit point down, showing me that it's still just slightly knock high. And I think that'll be enough to get this thing totally dialed in right away, and 3 ends, which is really nice. I'm glad that it didn't take me too long to get this thing all dialed in. And also, I'm really glad that I'm able to shoot 450s. And this is something I've been struggling with in all the last several reviews. For some reason, I've had to jump up to my 410s and shoot a little bit more draw weight than what I've been wanting to shoot. Slightly lower knocking point, hit a little higher. Still shocked at how quiet it is. Wasn't the greatest shot. I'm very happy to get a little bit of post-shot reaction that's different than the previous shots. So the sound deadened much quicker, and I felt a very actual harsh hit almost in the actual bow. I could feel it in my bow shoulder. And so the bow's giving me feedback telling me, hey, you didn't shoot that one the greatest, which is always a good thing to have happen, because sometimes you don't realize you made mistakes, right? Seems to be grouping pretty good. Yeah, should have let that one down. And now the bear shaft. I think pretty similar, just barely knock high, but definitely still within the group. Based on that tune, I'm going to say that this bow is more than capable to way out shoot me. I say this pretty much every video. Once I get to this point, it's not perfect, but at this point, eyeballing the center shot, getting the limbs aligned, and then coming out here and shooting a bear shaft like that is more than acceptable to shoot well into the 680s, 690s, or even higher. So that's not the problem. It'll be me that'll be the limiting factor. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to move my sight roughly to about 70 meters. I'm going to go grab my scope, we'll get back to 70 meters, and we'll start shooting some arrows back there. I'll probably shoot 2 ends for practice, and then maybe I'll shoot a 36 arrow rounds. I haven't done that a while on the channel, just to get a good, honest chance for this bow to show what it actually feels like. Because once you shoot it for a while at 70 meters and you start kind of pressuring yourself to shoot a score, the bow can kind of change and show maybe needs a little bit more stabilizer balance here or there, or some of the other characteristics may come out. But overall, the bow is very easy to tune. The only thing was the change in the actual center line, or the outside of the sight window to the center line of the bow, is way different than any other Hoyt has been in recent times. It's just way further out, so I had to move my sight totally different and change my center shot dramatically on a plunger that normally I can just take off of one bow and put on another one and be really close. So they changed something there, and I can't wait to get this thing measured and get the geometry mapped on it to see what is actually going on. So let's get back to 70. It hit right where it felt like it should have. The bow felt very stable. I couldn't get through the clicker for some reason. Maybe the clicker's out a little bit or in a little bit too far. Last one felt real good. Glad it went in the middle. So I'm close to being sighted in. One more in for practice. Overall, the bow feels, the stacking is a little bit more apparent here at distance. It just feels very stiff to get through the clicker sometimes. But that can lead to very confident feelings, as far as if you have to be very aggressive. If it's very stiff and stable like that, it won't want to wander as much potentially. It really tends to stay put and be very, very stable, for lack of better terms, but it doesn't want to wander off target if you're really strong with execution when you need it to be like this. So we'll see as it goes if by the end of the round it's too punishing and I'm unable to get through the clicker. But I'm gonna go grab my bow scale as well on my way down. That way I can check the actual draw weight here. $44.2 pounds. Wow. 43.2, so 44 pounds. Crazy low. So, feels a lot higher than that through the clicker. And something that was interesting was, that was the first time I drew back the bow, let it down, and then drew it back again, and I heard it click. So, and this happened on a previous Hoyt. So let me pluck it like I shot it. And then I'm gonna draw it back, let it down, and then draw it back again. So I'm still getting that same kind of response for some reason. So I let it down once. Let's see if it does it again. It did. It's coming from the bottom pocket. Shoot it again. Nothing. Let it down. I don't know why it does that, but draw it back. And then I'll put the pocket near the microphone. So I've had this happen before on another Hoyt. I never actually found out what it is, but it does happen. So, for whatever that's worth, that happens. All right, practice end number 2. Bow jumps really nice though. I will give it that. Definitely one of the nicer jumping Hoyts I've shot. Get up. Get up. Held long, couldn't quite get through the clicker, plucked it real well. It hit right where it's supposed to hit, so. I'm gonna move that clicker out just a little bit. It's just a little bit tough to get through the clicker. And as far as that whole 55% more clicker thing, I don't notice a difference, to tell you the truth. All right, first end for score here at 70 meters. Shoot 6 ends of 6 arrows for 36 arrows. All right, so I just let down. Expect to hear a click when I pull it back this time. Sounds definitively different in the 10 ring when the core is completely blown out like this. Man, just so difficult to get through that clicker. Huh. Wouldn't have guessed it would have been 8 low. Would have guessed high. For 44 pounds, it just feels stiff. Looks like either a 54 or 55. I have to get down there and look at the top 10. The line is completely distorted and out of place, so we'll see what it should be, but possibly a 54 on that first end. That was in fact a 54, and number 2. Get up. All right, 58 on that one, pretty solid. Definitely if I do my job and push the bow grip, the pressure where I want the arrow to go and just let the sight picture move and ignore everything else, it sure works really well. The bow does put a good direction on the arrow when it comes out of the hand, and it really just jumps right where I'm pushing it despite all the movement that's going on. So this is definitely one of the best jumping Hoyts that I've felt. I'm very, very happy with that. A little slow on the release on that one. Get up. All right, looks like a 53 on that one. Definitely when you don't do your job and shoot the great shots, they don't go in the middle. All right, halfway done here for my scoring round at 70 meters. Well, I let down. Let's see if we get a click again. That was a loud one. All right, hit the tripod. Pushed it low. Looks like a 58 from here. I got one vein blocking my view of an impact down there, but I think it's a 10, so I think that is a 58. Definitely if I do my job and I push the bow pressure where I want it to go and shoot a halfway okay shot, they go right in the middle. I think the string was like way over here by the time I let that one go. Been having a lot of arrows that are just out of the line. Dang. 56 on that one. So pretty solid. All right, last end for score here with the Hoyt Xceed 2 and Metrix limbs. And let down. Let's see if it clicks again. Yep, so every time I let down, it's clicked. Sometimes it really, something saves me. I think that bow pressure, I can get away with a lot from time to time today. Sometimes shots that feel okay go a little bit further out than they should, and sometimes shots that are like, oh, I'm lucky when they hit, so it's balancing out with this bow today. Really thought to myself I should let this down, and then it clicked. So I shot a 55 with an 8 and a 7 down there. Pretty solid to finish. I'm going to take it down there and we'll give my final thoughts here on this riser and limb combo from Hoyt, the new one for this year, and I'll let you know the total of my score. All right, so I ended up with a 334 out of 360 here, which is actually pretty solid considering, you know, some of the mishaps I had went in the middle, some of the mishaps I had went way out there. So overall, the bow felt great as far as the actual way the bow shot. So this Hoyt Xceed 2 and the Metrix limbs combo, I guess I would say it's one of my favorite shooting Hoyts as far as the way the bow feels. The way the bow jumps, the way the bow rolls, how steady it is. I really think that this is probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite Hoyt I've shot as far as the way it feels. We'll see, because I've got the new formula bow coming as well, and I also have the wood core limbs coming as well too, or the laminate limbs as they're calling them now. So I definitely have some stuff to test, and we'll be playing with that. I plan on doing another foam versus wood shootout, as well as a formula versus ILF shootout, because I got some new stuff coming thanks to Thomas that we're working on to give some much better data as far as draw force curves and things like that are concerned. So that'll be in the future though. So as far as what I like about this bow, definitely I like the way the bow jumps the most. It jumps really straight and it responds really well to input and pressure that I put into the grip. I'd say it's a little more sensitive than I'd like it to be, but that could be just the way my stabilizers are set up. These crows are real loud today. I just threw on my standard stabilizer setup, so I know I could optimize that a little bit better and change the way the bow feels overall, and it might make it a little more forgiving. Same thing with tweaking the way the grip is, and if, and I'll get into this, if I could put the high plate on it, I bet you I'd like the stability of it a little bit better personally, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But other things that I like about the bow, I do like how stable these limbs are. They feel very secure at full draw. They are stacking a little bit, and we'll talk about that too, but it feels like the actual stability of the limb when I'm at full draw, exerting forces into the bow, it doesn't dart around and wobble. It holds very steady, and it reacts very predictably, which is really important, especially when you're under pressure or you're shooting in gusty winds where you need to really get shots off quick sometimes. Sometimes when if a bow isn't very stable, it won't respond well to user input. So I'm very happy to see that it responded in that way, and the overall feel of the shot feels quite good. There's a little bit of residual low frequency, high amplitude shaking going on within the system, but that feels like a very typical Hoyt as far as I'm concerned. Maybe some brace height optimization could make that go away, and some dampers here or there, of course, especially like limb savers. I don't have any on this bow. That could make a lot of that stuff go away, but I like to feel it how it is as the bow is naturally without deadening it too much in the hand. Jumps well, very stable, relatively easy to align, of course. It's got the standard Hoyt limb alignment system that just aligns itself very easily. I don't see any issues there. The limbs tracked straight that I could tell. Yeah, I would say overall the actual system, as far as how it works together, I'm very, very happy with. Now, some things that I'm not exactly thrilled about on this bow. We'll start with the riser first. The finish on it, you know, I said, the orange peel, it is what it is, but as I sit here and shoot it more and more, this orange peel on the belly side of the bow, on this side of the actual riser, let me see if I can get you a view of it. Oops, sorry, I hit the microphone. It's kind of difficult to show you here in the shade, but I showed you it on the inside, and the orange peel it's really excessive in my opinion. I think that the finish in that regards could be a lot better. The holes in the back of the riser where you can see where they masked the front of the riser, you can see where the overspray or what was sticking on the silicone plug, it's still there. They could have knocked that off, just paid a little bit more attention to detail in that regard. I was very disappointed that the riser didn't come with multiple Vertitune plates. The whole idea is that they're supposed to be adjustable, and I don't know if they're planning on upselling these or what, but usually every other Hoyt that has had a Vertitune plate has come with 3 options, low, middle, and high. Right now you get one, and that's in the middle. This is the standard middle. A lot of people like them high, a lot of people like them low. And I'm just disappointed that it didn't come in the actual box. Maybe mine didn't come with them and they're supposed to. Previously on the podium riser, my clicker plate never even came with the box because I got one of the first few. So maybe they made a mistake. I'm not sure. I'll reach out to Lancaster and see what they have to say. I will comment down in the description or make a comment down in the description to let you know if that's just the way it's coming or if they're planning on upselling them to you, but for 900 bucks, they should come with some different Vertitune plates. So I'm really disappointed there. And I'm also disappointed that the tiller bolts are also still undersized, 371.5 thousandths of an inch. That really should be north of 373. It's not hard to keep tolerance on that part, and it should be much, much tighter tolerance there. It's easy to do as far as I'm concerned. Another thing that I'm not really a fan of, but I mean, it seems to be fine, is the thickness of the sight window. It's thicker than other Hoyts, so you can't just take your plunger off another Hoyt, throw it on this one, and your center shot set. You can't just take your sight off another Hoyt, throw it on this one, and your sight is relatively close. I had to crank the center shot way out. I had to crank the sight way out. Not a big deal. That is probably contributing to the stiffer in the Z-axis, if it's in this direction, like I'm assuming, as they claim, from changing from a Vertitune to this, whatever the new version of the Vertitune is called, to go to this kind of clicker thingy here in the front. It's probably stiffer in the Z-axis because the actual riser's thicker. At least that's what I'm seeing. So the riser, there's my pros and cons. The limbs, I already told you what I liked about the limbs as far as the way they jump, and they're very stable. They're also extremely torsionally stable and rigid, and I can't wait to get some data on that. I will, and I'll update that so you can check it out. But there's a lot of things that I wish were a little bit better. I'm actually happy to see that there's white paint on them now, because it makes sense from the hot environments we typically tend to shoot in, or archers typically tend to shoot in the summer. At outdoor tournaments, the sun really beats down on these things, and it's nice to see white, and supposedly it has some sort of heat reflective coating that's supposed to make it a little better. But other than that, the finish and the fit on this set of limbs really is lacking. There's a lot of dirt nibs. There's a lot of paint drips. There's even underlying scratch marks that I can see from when they buffed it all along the length of the limb, both front and back. It makes the limb look dirty, actually. I keep looking at it and thinking there's dirt on the limb or smear on the limb, like body oils or something. But no, it's the standing scratch marks from underneath the clear coat, and that thick clear coat that they put on it is not enough to flow it out and to cover those scratches from the underlying surface. Plus, you add in, like I said, the runs that I've seen everywhere, and I also see some fish eyes on stuff like the actual limb data sticker that they put on there. There's just, they spent so much time to optimize the actual build of the limb. They're calling it a total engineering design, where they optimize small, medium, and long limbs for each draw weight range to be as optimally optimized as possible. Instead of just changing one parameter like the core thickness, they're supposedly changing the whole layup of every limb, and that's why it's so expensive. If they're going to spend that much time to engineer each individual size, each individual configuration for you, they should spend more time to finish the limbs a little bit better. For the price point, they better be pretty much perfect. But to see what I saw on them, I'm frankly very disappointed in that. I have not taken the bow apart since I've been shooting it to see if there's any wear and tear or damage. Yeah, it's a very typical stuff here. I'll show you. Let me get my string off. Set that string aside. All right, let's take a look at the limbs first. So the limbs are taking the markings very typical of what we see on Hoyts. Check it out, where the actual tension adjustment system sits. It's biting in really hard into that clear coat, and it's already starting to peel on one of them. Yeah, I just took a chunk of it out, and it's on my thumbnail now from just scratching it off. Right there. As I said when I first unboxed them, I noticed they had a little smell to them as if they weren't fully cured yet. I don't know if that was epoxy or what that was. And I did have that cracking sound going on every time I let down the bow. Every time I drew the bow back after I let it down, it cracked considerably loud, and it seemed to get louder as I shot the limbs more and more. So, you know, overall, I'm not really happy with that. It's just disappointing. You know, this is a very expensive limb, and in 6 months, this clear coat is gonna peel off of that whole area. These little dots that are on the bow, these Delrin inserts, still aren't fully seated, even with that excessive amount of pressure with the limbs, you know, all the way out. That one spot that I showed you is just still not seated all the way, and I'm not happy to see that. If they're gonna put these things in, they gotta sit flush and they've gotta be even on both sides. It's pretty critical in my opinion. Yes, they have this you know, adjustment system that is gonna allow you to rock the limb and twist the limb to kind of take out any sort of errors, but I feel like, you know, a simple design change is if they were to take the holes for these plates here and move that hole deeper down, further away from that radius, they wouldn't have such a pinch point, and that's what's biting into the limbs and causing this clear coat to fail. It's because that hole is too far to the edge of where the limb rolls off the edge over there, and then that pinch point in the center where the actual screw head is causing this whole damage to the limbs. It's exacerbating it and accelerating it and making it faster. So, you know, the feeling, it feels great. Shoots great, aligned fine. The fit and finish, both of those really need work. The value, the feel is there, the look is there from 3 feet plus away. I just wish it was a little tighter. I wish if they, you know, fully optimize the limbs for each individual setup, they could spend a little more time on the finishing on both the riser and the limbs. But otherwise, it's one of my favorite feeling Hoyts, one of my favorite shooting Hoyts as far as the way it jumps, as far as the way it reacts, as far as the way it rolls. I like all those things. There's just the finishing department right now is in some serious need and some serious help right now, in my opinion. So with all that being said, if you are interested in grabbing one of these Hoyt Xceed 2s or the Metrix limbs, I will have links down in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out the discount codes in the description below for Arcor grips as well as the Push Archery for quivers, both 10% off if you use code Kaminski at checkout. And like I said, thank you again for everyone who does click those links before you shop there and help support the channel, joining Discord, becoming YouTube member, watching the videos, sharing them with your friends, posting these online. Really genuinely helps spread the word about the channel, and it allows me to buy this equipment to get you the feedback so you can get true unfiltered reviews that don't come filtered through a pro shooter's mouth. So really appreciate everybody, and hopefully you enjoyed this.